Hello everyone, welcome to Communication Systems. Today we will talk about the historical overview of our modern communication systems. We are surrounded by communication devices and systems everywhere, be it telephone, radio, television, or internet. Every day we come in contact with different types and varieties of communication systems. Through these, we are able to communicate with different users across the world and proceed with transactions and receiving news from any corner of the world. We cannot imagine a world without telephones, TV, etc. Now, we will look at the historical review of the development of our modern communication systems. One of the most fundamental breakthrough inventions in communication is the electric battery by Alessandro Volta in 1799. Another milestone in the area of communication systems is the invention of electric telegraph by Samuel Morse. Sam Morse is credited with the discovery of the Morse code, which is used in telegraphy. The Morse code is a variable length binary code. The meaning of variable length is that the length of the code varies for different letters and different numbers which we will use. Just like how we use 0 and 1 in binary code, in Morse code we use dash and dot. We use the binary code in digital computers too. In digital computers, the binary symbols are 0 and 1. But Morse code, a type of binary code which is used in electric telegraph, the binary symbols are dash and dot. This was the Morse code given by Samuel Morse. In this Morse code, if you closely observe all the elements, if you look and observe closely, you will find that the less frequently occurring elements have longer length codes. But the more frequently occurring elements have shorter length codes. In essence, one of the earliest form of electrical communication system was developed by Morse. About 40 years later, Emile Baudot developed the Baudot code in which each letter was encoded into a fixed length binary code. The fixed length Emile Baudot used was 5. The binary coded elements have equal length of 5. This is the Baudot code. We can see that there is a fixed length of 5. In Baudot code, the binary symbols are mark and space. This is mark and these blank spaces are space. The use of the telephones came after the invention of the telephones by Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell established the Bell Telephone Company in 1877. Early telephone communications were relatively simple. The invention of the triode amplifier by Lee De Forest was a major breakthrough in telephone communication system as it amplified the signal and helped the telephone signal to travel across large distances. The automatic switch was another milestone in telephone communication area. The first automatic switch was developed by Alman Brown Strohweger and it was an electromechanical step-by-step switch. The first automatic switch was also known as the Strohweger switch. The invention of the automatic telephone exchange system drastically changed the telecommunication landscape. This Strohweger switch allowed the telephone exchanges to automatically connect calls based on the number dialed by the caller. So if I have to explain what the Strohweger switch does in simple words, then I can tell that when a caller dials a number, the automatic switching system or the Strohweger switch interprets the dialed digits and uses a series of switches to create a continuous electrical path from the caller to the receiver, thus establishing a connection. If you want to know about the detailed working of this automatic switch, then you are free to research it on your own. However, though, with the invention of transistors, the automatic switch was replaced by the electronic switch, also known as the digital switch, which are being used in modern day computers. Another interesting thing to note that in early communication systems, we were using copper wires, but now in the modern communication systems, we use fiber optic cables which have replaced the copper cables. Sir Oliver Lodge was the first to demonstrate wireless communication over a 150-yard distance in England. He used a device called as the coherer as shown here, which detects the radio signals. Let's discuss about coherer. The coherer was a primitive form of radio signal detector, and it was used in the first radio receivers during the invention of wireless telegraphy. This coherer is a tiny glass tube filled with metal fillings. The components of coherer include a glass tube, metal fillings, and electrodes. The glass tube is a small sealed glass container. Inside the glass tube, there are metal fillings, usually iron or sometimes nickel. These metal fillings are loosely packed. These fillings are the key to the coherer's sensitivity to the oncoming radio signals. Also, you can see two electrodes here which are kept in contact with the metal fillings, and these electrodes are inserted into the ends of the glass tube. So these are the components of coherer which was used by Oliver Lodge. So if we talk about the operation of this coherer, what this coherer does is that initially in the absence of radio waves, these metal fillings are loosely or not even touching each other at all. In this case, they offer a high resistance to the electric current. So at this stage, we can call this device as a non-conductive device. This state is also called as the rest state. Now when there is presence of radio waves and the radio waves hit the coherer, the impact, the energy induces a slight electric current in the fillings. Since radio waves are nothing but electromagnetic waves, cause the fillings to align and clump together, forming a conductive path between the two electrodes. Now in the presence of radio waves, the fillings join together or clump together, forming a conductive path between the two electrodes. Since the fillings clump together and forms a conductive path, the resistance of the coherer decreases drastically. Since we have to detect the next radio signal falling on the coherer, we have to do something such that the resistance of the coherer is set back to its initial state, which is the high resistance state. And for that, Oliver Lodge used a device called as the decoherer, which is nothing but mechanically tapping the coherer such that the tapping breaks the conductive paths and scatters the metal fillings and returns the coherer to its original non-conductive state. Marconi is credited with the invention of the wireless telegraphy. He demonstrated the transmission of radio signals for a distance of about 2 kilometers. Oliver Lodge demonstrated it for a very short distance, like for only 100 meters, but Marconi demonstrated the wireless communication for a distance of about 2 kilometers. Sir Oliver Lodge's experiments were very useful in the early days of radio, and Marconi developed on Lodge, Hertz, and Maxwell's observations and demonstrated wireless communication over a distance of more than 2 kilometers. John Ambrose Fleming is credited with the invention of the vacuum diode. Later, vacuum triode replaced vacuum diode, and this vacuum diode was being used in the early days of radio communication system. Vacuum diode was replaced by vacuum triode, which was later used for the development of the modern radio communication system. In fact, this vacuum triode made radio broadcasting possible. AM broadcasting was first demonstrated and it was growing more and more popular. The invention of the super heterodyne AM radio receiver by Edwin Armstrong was a milestone in AM broadcasting. Edwin Armstrong also demonstrated FM broadcasting, which was another important milestone in radio communications. Back then, compared to AM, FM was very less popular. The first TV system was built in USA by Vladimir Zworykin. So, the development of today's modern communication systems has a very significant and deep history, and it is important to look at the milestones achieved before the advent of today's modern communication systems. So in this lecture, we saw about the historical review of our modern communication systems, and we also saw Morse code and Baudot code, and we saw the invention of telephone by Graham Bell, and the invention of the triode amplifier, and the automatic switch. So in this lecture, we saw a historical review of our modern communication systems. In the next lecture, we will talk about the elements of a communication system. Thank you for joining in this session. See you in the next one.